On March 12, 2001, I was there.
February 24th, 2001, the day I became a sucker. There was one thing I didn't mention in my videos about a couple of games I went to in the fall of 2000. I had a girlfriend during that time. One problem I had in my 20s, when I got into romantic entanglements, I would do crazy things for them. This woman I loved her enough to do whatever it would take to keep her. That would include myself beginning a new spiritual journey. One thing about her was she was a Latter-day Saint. People who are Latter-day Saints, LDS for short, are better known as Mormons. So to marry the Mormon, I had to become a Mormon. I would be baptized on that Saturday afternoon, and a day later, I would be a newly confirmed member of the Latter-day Saints. I had my girlfriend's father do the honors of dunking my head in the baptismal font. I'll go into further details of my days as a Latter-day Saint at another time, but this was what I was going through heading into this game on a Monday night. The Sharks continued to do well in the 2001 season. The night before I got baptized, they won at home against the Mighty Ducks. This win would maintain their division lead on their rivals, the Dallas Stars. After this game, they went on a 6-game road trip that would become a nightmare, earning a whopping 2 points that they earned in the state of Florida. The Sharks came home on a 6-game winless streak, which would be extended to 7 after getting shut out at home against the Predators. Dallas would take over the Pacific Division lead during this drought the Sharks were going through. Help would be on the way for the Sharks. Near the end of their long road trip, the team would be involved in a blockbuster trade with the Mighty Ducks. Who can an in-state rival possibly have of value? Mired in last place in the Western Conference, the Ducks decided to break up the iconic duo of Paul Kariya and Teemu Selanne. All the Sharks had to do was flip a draft pick, Jeff Friesen and Steve Shields, to the Ducks to get Selanne. How about that? A guy who was a thorn in the side of the Sharks for years would now be on their side. But there was a catch to this deal. He wouldn't join Team Teal for a couple of weeks. More on that later. So on another one of my trips to the Shark Tank that season, the Sharks would be hosting the Montreal Canadiens, another Original Six franchise that was going through a few rough years. At the turn of the century, they were abysmal, finishing at or near the bottom of the Northeast Division for the past few seasons. In fact, they've been stuck in neutral after winning the Stanley Cup in 1993 and trading Patrick Waugh in 1995. Early in the 2001 season, the Habs fired their coach Alain Vigneault 20 games in. Yes, the same coach that led 2 teams to the Stanley Cup final in the 2010s. The Canadiens were his first NHL coaching gig for 3.25 seasons. He just didn't take the team anywhere. With the hiring of Michel Therrien, that would be the Habs' 5th head coach since 1993. A cool story here before I begin. This was one of only 2 games on the NHL schedule that night. Both games would get national attention on ESPN2. Calling the game that night would be one of my favorite play-by-play voices on the network, Steve Levy. In his long career, he has called many hockey games, college football games, and as of writing this, he is the voice of Monday Night Football. I decided why not. I walked up to him and asked him for his autograph. He and I chatted for a few seconds and that was it. I would also say hi to the man with the mullet, notable hockey analyst and former Kings head coach Barry Melrose. Okay, there's my story of meeting a couple of somewhat famous people. Let's get to it. Starting goalie for the Sharks was Evgeny Nabokov. Not much here to go over that I didn't earlier. Now that Shields was on the Ducks, Nabby would be the man for the next decade. Many goalies had come and gone in the 2000s, but Nabokov would be staying for a while. Starting keeper for Montreal, Jose Theodore. Theodore played in the NHL for over 16 years, over half of that time with Les Habitants. In his 9 seasons with Montreal, 2001-02 was his best season, making the North American All-Star team in 2002, winning the Hart and the Vezina Trophy in the same year. Probably for playing a role in the Canadiens knocking off the Bruins in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Near the end of the 2005-06 season, Theodore would be thrusted on the Patrick Waugh career track and be traded to the Avalanche. He would be with the Avs for 3 seasons, the Capitals for 2 seasons where he won the Masterson Trophy in 2010, the Wild for a year, and the Panthers for 2 seasons before retiring in 2013. Over 6 minutes in, and with the Sharks on the power play, things got a little nasty. Brian Marchman did have a reputation of wrecking kneecaps. Just ask Doug Waite. He continued to maintain his reputation with this brutal hit on Martin Brzezinski.
Something that you'd only see a player like, well, now Marchman is going to get worked over on the near side as he collided with Rushinsky in the neutral zone. And there is concern for Martin Rushinsky.
While Rushinsky would be carried off, Marchman would be sent off. Along with a 5-minute major for kneeing, Marchman would get a game misconduct for his dangerous actions. About 5 minutes later, Aaron Asham's obstruction holding penalty would put the Sharks on the power play. During that time, Owen Nolan would dump the puck in for a line change.
Turn of his usual power play mate. There's a goal! What a shot!
This strange tally was reminiscent of a goal that happened in a similar fashion at the Cow Palace during the Sharks' first season in 1992, strangely against the Canadiens.
Once more, if you didn't believe it the first time.
At this point, Andre Rasko was leaving the net, expecting the puck to go in behind the net, takes a crazy hop, and now we've got a real hockey game here.
Nabokov and Gary Suter would get the assist on that freak goal. Speaking of Gary Suter, another unfortunate incident happened later in the period. It seems the Canadiens hadn't forgotten about the hatchet job Marchman put on Rushinsky. That's when Montreal's Jim Campbell got even, and Suter happened to be in his crosshairs.
So, if he enjoys scoring against Licking again, Jim Campbell going to pick up a penalty on the far side. He planted Suter into the boards, and Suter.
This is the hit from behind. This is the only thing. Boy, that's so right into the boards. Jim Campbell hammers him, and Jim Campbell is out of the game for that hit. That's the only thing you can do in the National Hockey League. Oh, that's so ugly to see because the head leads first.
Well, Marchman got kicked out, can't get even with him, so why not take it out on the next available Sharks defenseman? Here's the penalty summary as you hear Drew Remenda lobby for the death penalty on players who hit from behind.
Going to get off the hit from behind bandwagon, but I'm telling you, that's the only way to handle it. You've got to kick everybody out for any hit from behind.
Nothing came from that payback, but in the last minute of the period, Benoit Brunet got called for holding, putting the Sharks on their 4th power play of the period. Patrick Marleau wasted little time cashing in on the late period penalty.
In the period, Corlew golfs it around to Nolan on this side. Owen with 10 seconds left. To the front of the net, and they score!
Happen to more. Check out the hands on Patrick Marleau. In tight, has a couple of seconds to jack the puck over the shoulder of Theodore. That shows you why a defenseman has to get the guy's hands in front. Patrick Marleau needed that, Randy.
Nolan and Alexander Koroluk got the assists. Not much happened in the second period. A couple of penalties were called, and Tony Granato nearly put the Sharks ahead 3-0, but his effort was disallowed because the ref lost sight of the puck and prematurely blew the whistle. So on to the third period, which was completely uneventful as well. No penalties were called, and Nabokov maintained his shutout. Good. The last thing I needed that night was a bottom feeder to think they had a chance. Montreal pulled Theodore to try to get on the board with the extra attacker. Even the Canadiens failed at that. No sooner did they pull the goalie, Stéphane Matteau would ice the game.
Open net chance. Matteau scores!
Wants to throw it across ice. Good job by Smith and Matteau to pursue the puck into the empty net. It goals, and Stéphane Matteau.
How about we see the final seconds of the best performance the Sharks had since I got baptized, while Nabokov recorded another shutout, one of 6 that season.
Worst streak of the year is about to come to an end, and in very convincing and dominating fashion. They've put 45 shots up on the board, and yet Yevgeny Nabokov has himself a shutout. Very impressive performance by the San Jose Sharks, led by their skilled guys tonight, Randy.
So the Sharks finally snapped a long winless streak, and all it took for me was to be there. Now they can get something going to keep pace with the Dallas Stars for the Pacific Division lead, right? Right?
The losing skid would be over. In the words of a Mormon hymn, all was well. When I was there on March 12th, 2001.
Season, the Sharks have compiled some great numbers, but they've got plenty of homework to do to make it add up to a successful year. With 9 games remaining on home ice, the Sharks hope they don't have too long to wait until number 8 takes the ice in San Jose. Now the Sharks have been staggered by a 7-game winless streak, and they'll have to cope with a member of the original 6 as the Montreal Canadiens go for a swim in the tank. Tonight, San Jose can take over the 5th spot in the West with just 4 weeks left in the regular season. And with a 3-point deficit in the Pacific Division race, they'll be going all out for 2 points. The Sharks are looking for one big moment, one big performance, one big win to turn their fortunes around. It's 0 hour in San Jose. The Sharks are counting on a victory tonight.